Okay, I've got 7 o'clock. Anybody else?
Me too. You're good.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. We have a roll call, please, Sarah?
Sure. Oh, he's not here. About
Here.
Crawford.
Here.
McMullen.
Here.
Gassiok's not here, and Barna.
Here. We have a quorum.
You do, Mr. Chair.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Support.
Were you gonna amend them?
Pardon?
Oh, never mind. That's the agenda.
Yeah, approval of the
ahead
agenda.
myself. Sorry.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, for approval of the minutes from our last meeting, they're included here. I had one edit, which was item number 1. The meeting was called to order by Chairman Kabashik at 7 o'clock. So, does anybody have anything else? So I would move that the minutes for the November 9th meeting be approved as amended.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
I should have let you take the agenda one, because you couldn't do the minutes one.
Okay, so
Sorry.
the minutes are approved. Okay, at this point, we have public comments. No one online, no one in the audience. Okay, we have unfinished business, none. At this point, we'll move into the new business. Item A is election of officers for 2024. We elect 2 officers, a chairman and a vice chairman. Do we have nominations for chairman?
I move we nominate Bob Kabasiak as chair.
I approve. We have a nomination and a second. Any other nominations? Nominations are closed. Is this roll call or just voice vote?
Let's do a roll call just in case. Bauk,
Yes?
Crawford,
Yes.
McMullen,
Yes.
and Barna.
Yes.
Okay, Bob is the chairman. Okay, we need to elect a vice chair next. Nominations are open.
I would nominate Jim Bauk as for vice chair.
Support.
I would also support. Any other nominations? Nominations are closed. Could we have a vote, please?
Yep. Bauk,
Yes?
Crawford,
Yes.
McMullen.
Yes.
And Kubasi. Oh, I'm sorry, and Barna.
Yes.
Okay, that completes item A. Item B is the variance request to increase the lot coverage for 145 Grant Street. Could we have the zoning administrator summary, please?
Certainly, Mr. Vice Chair. Good evening, everyone. In this case, the applicant, Jim Smith, of 145 Grant, has brought forth a request to you for a lot coverage variance to construct a new 2-story detached garage. The lot coverage request would have the lot coverage at 34%. The maximum that the zoning ordinance allows for is 30%. So he's requesting a variance of 4% for that difference. In this case, the applicant should look quite familiar to you. He was before you a couple months ago. Some of his variances were approved related to the dwelling, and he was proposing a detached garage a couple months ago as well. The variances for that were denied or related to lot coverage, setbacks, both rear and side. Front and rear. In this case, the applicant has kind of scaled down his proposed detached garage. He took a closer look at the calculations for lot coverage and what needs to be included, and determined that even with the scaled down project, that he still is a bit over on the lot coverage. In this particular case, if you recall, the lot is is non-conforming in the sense that the lot area is smaller than the district requires, and the lot width is also slightly smaller as well. He has a 54-foot wide lot, and the lot width requirement is 66 foot. The zoning ordinance does allow for someone to build on a non-conforming lot so long as they meet the dimensional requirements. In this case, you would need a lot coverage variance if this project were to move forward in its current configuration. I think that's all I have as far as a summary, Mr. Chair. There's kind of some staff consultant analysis for you in your meeting packet related to each of the standards. Other than that, probably best for the applicant to walk you through his changes.
Okay, presentation by the applicant.
Thank you. Just got a few bullet points I'd like to read through and then maybe answer any questions. Like Ryan said, I scaled the garage way back, just under 700 square feet. Bullet points are as follows. Our goal is to make the home suitable for full-time residents. We plan to stay there. We want to be able to put our vehicles, bikes, lawn equipment in the garage along with our ski boat that we like to enjoy here. There is an upper level for storage currently. And because we don't have a basement, storage would include our patio furniture and seasonal type stuff. Through this process, and after the last meeting, I went back and did like a neighborhood study and calculated lot size, average lot size, and then calculated all the buildings that are recorded on the tax information to kind of come up with like, am I asking for something that's just way out of realm? And what I found, there was 4 sections. I kind of divided the neighborhood up into 4 sections. The 4 sections are as follows. There's a Grant, Holland, Hubert, and Elizabeth kind of block. And then there's a Grant, Holland, North Street and Elizabeth block, and then Elizabeth, Brook and North. And the last one was Elizabeth and Brook. It's kind of a little triangle that's fit in there. And calculated each property and came up with an average square foot. What I did is there's the outliers. There's usually one really large lot and then one really small lot. I threw those out and then came up with an average with what was left. And the average was a little bit over 11,000 square feet. That was the average. That was just something that I thought would be helpful for me just to kind of see where I stacked up. Our lot is under the minimum, as Ryan said, which is 8712. And just for fun, I just thought, okay, if our lot was 11,000, what would be our lot coverage? And that would be about 20%. And then I also looked at how many garages are in the neighborhood, just so I could kind of get a feel. Am I asking for something that's out of like extraordinary or out of the character of the neighborhood? And to my surprise, I actually found more garages than I thought were there. There were several 2.5 stall, several 3 stall, and that's in the 4 blocks there. Now, when I walked towards town, towards the city, I actually found some 3-car and some 4-car, which was a surprise. So I thought, okay. In the previous meeting, I had a 1-car garage that was approved. And now I'm asking for a 2-car, so a total of 3. So kind of settled in there. Interesting thing, I kind of got sidetracked in my studies. I found a website, historical aerial photos, because somebody had told me that there was a house back there at one time. So I did find It's hard because the photos are kind of fuzzy, but there were some pretty good aerial shots of a house in that general location, right where I'm proposing the garage. I can't tell if it meets setbacks or anything. I doubt it because nothing else does. But it was 1981 was the last photograph that, and then it jumped to like 97, and in 97 it wasn't there. So I just found that interesting. So as far as structures and the neighborhood, and there was a building there quite a bit larger, more the size of the garage that I had proposed earlier. So I found that interesting. Another point, and maybe Ryan, you can please correct me if I'm saying anything that's inaccurate, but the house on 145 Grant Street is in the historical district. And so I kind of looked at that, and some of the neighbors that had wrote in not in support are outside that historical district, which just a point I want to make. And this is where I may need your help. There are several districts within the city, like there's R1, R2, R3, and I don't fully understand, but I did notice that the lot coverage changes from district to district. And I understand like right here where we are, it's like, could be as high as 100%. So I just found that interesting. I'm not in this area. So I branched out. Well, then there's several areas that are 45 and 50. And I found that interesting. Because they're in the city, that historical district. And because the historical district goes all the way up to Grant and over, I'm included in that. So I just found that interesting. In my studies, there was only two that I'm aware of, two lots in those 4 blocks that I described that were over 30%. There were some very, up close to 30, but as far as I know, there was only 2. So another interesting fact. And I don't know, Ryan, did you share my lot coverage study? I don't know.
I didn't include it in the meeting packet.
But yeah.
If you want.
So, I mean, if anyone was interested to see where I came up with my numbers, I don't fully understand like the porches, covered porches, decks. If they're a certain height off the ground, they do count. And so I got a little, it's all listed, everything's there, so it's real easy to switch it around. But I try to do the best I could to identify what actually is there. And then Ryan helped me through my application just to get everything accounted for correctly, so that when I say 34%, it's 34%. So I think that's all I have unless you have questions. One thing I noticed, and this is the second time I've done something like this. When you close and then deliberate amongst each other, and it's like, I can help, but I understand it's closed, so I won't raise my hand again. But I mean, I just thought if there's any questions, I have really put a lot of effort.
Yes, you have. It's quite a package. Thank you.
So I'm finished. Thank you.
Well, we'll have a chance later.
Okay, public comments regarding the application. Do we have anyone in the audience? Do we have anyone online, either for or opposed? And we have just one letter?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. The email that came in today from Mark and Deidre Levine at 1005 Elizabeth Street. I emailed to you. I believe Sarah printed a copy. Just want to make sure everybody had a chance to take a look at that.
Okay, to get that in the record, Nick, would you please read that letter? It's from Mark and Deidre Levine, who live at 1005 Elizabeth.
Okay. Excuse me. I am writing in regards to 145 Grant Street. My wife and I own the home kitty corner to the property. We oppose the second ask for a zoning variance. The issue is created solely by the owner's desire for an oversized driveway, a large garage, one is already approved, and a likely second accessory unit. Considerable expectations have already been granted. The property is unique in a positive way compared to the equivalent lots, as it has 2 of 4 sides accessible. The uniqueness is what even allows the owner to attempt to build an oversized 2-story accessory building. They also desire a second driveway, which is oversized and which pushes it so close to the lot line. Zoning rules were known when they purchased the property, and yet they continue to try and ask for more accommodations. There are plentiful options to build within conformity, but the owner didn't wish to do so with its original submission, or again, with this second submission. The building also appears likely to be an accessory dwelling unit, given the stairs to the second floor. Is that considered? Is it conforming? Or will the owner return a third time to address another zoning variance? The issue is purely the owner's making and should be rejected. Consider the entirety of the project and not the numerous piecemeal attempts to make the ask seem small in scale. Mark and Deirdre Levine, 1005 Elizabeth Street.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more comments? Sarah, there's no one online? Okay, at this point, we're going to close the public comment portion. Move into deliberations. We've got a second ask for new construction of a non-conforming structure. And it is scaled down from what it was before, and they've done quite a nice presentation. Do we have opinions one way or the other on this?
Welcome now, or should we wait?
Well, we're deliberating. so.
Maybe I'll wait till we go through the standards. It's a large garage. It seems like more than a 2-stall garage to me.
My garage is 21 feet wide.
Mine's 20.
This one would be roughly 26 by 26 if it was square. And it does have a second story, which the applicant has said will be for storage. And whether or not it has a second story is not the issue. The issue is strictly lot coverage on this lot.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of mass for that lot, but I don't think that is something we take into consideration.
Well, we do, and that's the lot coverage. We did
I mean,
check,
mass.
we did check floor area ratio.
Oh, okay, good. I was wondering about that.
Ryan and I had that discussion. And it would be conforming.
Okay.
For floor area ratio, correct, Ryan?
Yeah, the chair had some questions about whether, now to be clear, they haven't submitted for zoning approval, so we haven't done a, deeper dive and today's the first I've had the clear statement that it's going to be storage above and not an accessory dwelling unit. I know there's some questions about that, but even if with the floor area ratio and determining that garages are not included in making that calculation, I think it's an interesting question whether or not an ADU space above a garage might be. For purposes of just kind of going down that road, I said, okay, if I exclude just the garage, exclude that floor space, on the second level, if it was to be an ADU and then took, the additions that they're doing, excluding the attached garage, they're going to still be slightly under that floor area ratio requirement. And that gets, like you said, exactly to, massing and bulk and that sort of thing. So excluding that area as a possible ADU definitely puts it under, primarily because we have a single story home that's on the property. So
Right.
it starts to really add up when you start getting into those second stories.
Right.
So that's the only thing that we have outside of the Historic Society for mass or bulk.
Okay.
And it is conforming, and, I did some quick calculating here. What we approved last time was a modification to an existing non-conforming structure. And we increased, I may have my terms confused here, but we increased the amount of non-conformance, but not the intensity of it. It did not protrude further into the street than the current building does, but we added some area to it to allow the home to be remodeled. So we increased,
For non-conformity, right?
we increased the non-conformity, the amount of non-conformity, but not the intensity of it. It didn't move further into the setback area. There was more area included though. What we're talking about now is new construction.
Right.
And the lot itself is, as I understand it, it is undersized. It's 8712, which would give you at 30% buildable area of 2614 to be conforming. The house right now, the garage, the existing garage on the house is 346, and then the house, the other three parts of the house, it adds up to 2174. So from that, he's got 440 square feet available if the house stays the same as it is now. And what he wants to build is 676. So that would be a 50% increase over what is available. 676 compared to 440. Well, it doesn't matter, because it's only concerned with this particular lot. It doesn't matter if it was an 11,000 square foot lot or the minimum legal size lot. Now, are there options that are conforming? Does he have other options?
Absolutely.
Yes. And it could be a smaller garage. They could give up the garage on the house, the 346 square feet.
Mhm.
If they gave that up, and then they would have more area than they're looking for to build this detached garage.
Right.
So there seem to be conforming options available. And we're talking new construction, not a revision to a legal non-conforming structure. So that's my take on it.
I agree. There are options. I don't feel like we would be denying the homeowner the use of their property.
Rich? You're deep in thought over there.
Well, there's a
Yes.
mulligan stew of numbers.
Yeah.
And I did talk to Ryan on the phone a few days ago to kind of sort some of it out. And then you're putting it in different, which I thought my mind was perfectly clear on it, more or less. But then now you're talking about, I think, similar things that I was, but you're using a little bit different, but we're still in the same ballpark. There was a discrepancy that I noted in the square footage that was given in the last go around on this of the house, and yet the setbacks seem to be the same. And I appreciate the applicant, perhaps giving us a better estimate, but plugging in the new numbers as we have them this evening, your number, I come up with essentially the same numbers as what you just said. And and just when you boil it all down, I think you're looking at the difference between, say, a two-car garage and something more like a one-car garage. It would be permissible without a variance, something like that.
Provided you keep the garage on the house.
Yeah. Yeah, or then there may be other combinations,
Yeah.
like getting rid of that and doing this. That could be done. It could be done. So I think we're in agreement on all of that. I'm not, I did ask Ryan some questions about the upstairs storage with a view. And it's interesting, and yet I'm not sure just exactly what jurisdiction we have there. I think it does relate to mass and in terms of character of the neighborhood, which I think we have some nodding interest here in, and particularly how it might impact, say, the neighbor. Interesting that he's brought up in writing and verbally the fact that there may have been a house back there at one time, which is of interest, but nevertheless, we are where we are at this point. So I worry about the mass and the impact on the neighbors, but yet by right, he could do certain things here without even asking for a variance.
Right.
Right.
And in fact, that's sort of the whole business of the ZBA, is to do things that you can't do by right. I mean,
Right.
that's just makes it unnecessarily burdensome to do things that you ordinarily could do by right. But the fact remains that he could do these things that he has a right to do. And so that's hard to, it isn't that I wouldn't want to, but, we're prohibited from doing certain things.
Right.
Our hands are tied.
Mhm.
At least that's kind of what I'm thinking, unless, I could be convinced otherwise by other arguments. And I know there are other arguments on the other side, but.
Yeah.
Nick?
I don't have anything that I could add to what Rich and Kate has said, and you about his recommendations. And there are variances, and obviously there are options that can be pursued to comply and not upset the neighborhood, and hopefully not do something out of character.
Well, to grant this variance, there would have to be something about the property itself that makes this unusually or unnecessarily burdensome. Having a garage, not necessarily this garage, but having a garage. And there is nothing, in my opinion, so unique about this property that having a garage becomes unnecessarily burdensome. It's just this particular garage and the size of it, and the desire of the applicant to have something greater than the minimum standard does not qualify as unnecessarily burdensome. That's the rules.
Mhm.
It's the rules, and and the ZBA is like, there's not a lot of wiggle room. I mean, I think, I've served on several boards, and if you're talking PUDs and things like that, there's usually some wiggle room and some trade-offs and some things, and you've been on there, and there may be a little bit, the ZBA is a little more cut and dried, and
Mhm.
I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Any more debate before we move into the standards?
Just to
Okay, so-
address, if I could, just to address the idea of an accessory dwelling unit, if that is something that the applicant had in mind or that would want to do down the road, or a future homeowner would want to do, that, I assume that's where we would have, or the city would have some jurisdiction to say, if in fact there's a new plan and that ends up being over the
The planning,
ratio.
my understanding is the planning commission would have to approve that as a use.
Yeah, so that is, an interesting point. So yes, if somebody wants to say, he builds, he's granted a variance, he builds the garage and it's storage above, and he later wants to convert it into an accessory dwelling unit, yes, that would require an approval later on, another zoning approval. And it is an important note that even if there were floor area ratio issues here, it's not that floor area ratio above 0.3 to 1 is prohibited. It's just that it triggers a special land use review and extra consideration by the city's planning commission.
Okay. Thank you.
Could you define this floor area ratio just a bit more, please?
Yep. So,
Does this have to do with that ordinance thing that we talked about on the phone that?
yeah, your question's related to like bulk and massing.
Right.
Exactly right. Yep. Yep. So let's pull up the definition directly here to make sure we're giving you.
And it was sort of put in place in terms of the McMansion type
Yes,
thing.
Yeah, people building a
So you can't-
huge.
you can't-
accessory dwelling unit
Huge
that-
house, why not?
can't build a 6-story hotel with a very small footprint that's only 30% lot coverage.
Yeah.
But your floor areas, you got 6 floors, so now you've,
Mhm,
it's a
mhm.
bulk and it's a bulk measurement.
Yeah, there's a few different interplays here. So for the purposes of the floor area ratio, it's a quantitative relationship between the total gross floor area of a structure, but it's minus the square footage of areas such as basements, unfinished attics or garages, and the lot area. So you're taking the total gross floor area of the spaces that you have to measure. It could be first floor, second floor, and then dividing it by your lot area, and then that's how you get your ratio. I mean, the other piece that also just more naturally, also limits, some bulk and massing is going to be, height limits. And so you certainly do have a height limit within your zoning ordinance. I don't know what the height of this particular structure is going to be. You certainly with the gable style roof would have to have it no higher than 32 feet at the pitch, but then between the eave and the ridge wouldn't be able to be, take an average of those two, it couldn't be higher than 28 feet. So even if he chooses to, depending on what happens here today, if he were to not do an attached garage, I mean, he could still theoretically build a garage of this same height with storage above, as it looks and appears for you in your packet today.
But you'd have to go back to the planning commission to get the use
No.
not for
because because accessory dwelling units are
Those are
allowed.
permitted, yes. To
Mhm.
rent an
To
accessory
rent it,
dwelling
they have to be
unit,
rented in conjunction with the main residence.
then you go into the planning commission review.
And I think the
Yep.
main, I was trying to find it again, came across it. I think the minimum square foot area is like 375 square feet.
Minimum is 375 and there's a max of 600, but it's the lesser of that or 30% of your floor area of your house.
And we also have to remember, just like in anything else, when we approve things or in other bodies, when you zone for things or whatever, you're not doing it just for the current owner, although the current
Right.
owner may be a fine person and fine intent and fine, but it could be 50 years from now that you're having to allow for that for the first. So, okay, well, I appreciate that.
But an accessory dwelling unit on this garage as proposed is too big, is that correct? If it can't exceed 600 square feet?
Well, the
Or is it
ADU space
30%?
the space would have a limitation. So we'd be looking at the living areas of the accessory dwelling unit to see how many, what the square footage is of just the ADU portion.
So, I got you.
It's somewhat of a sidebar issue, and yet
Yeah.
one of our criteria is to do justice to the owner and then also to the neighbors.
That's right.
So,
Right.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Are we ready to move into the standards? I'll take that as a yes. Hey, Rich, would you do the first standard, please?
Okay, standard number 1. That strict compliance with area setbacks, frontage, height, bulk, or density would unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted use or would render conformity unnecessarily burdensome. I would judge that standard is not met. I'd have to sort through this. One is that the owner has previously proposed and has been accepted for an attached garage space in the principal dwelling. Thus, he could build a garage, an accessory building garage with, say, example, one car that would still give him the two cars without needing a relaxation. We could probably make that a little bit tidier. Basically, I believe that his requirements for a garage could be met within the allotted space without a relaxation.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's do a vote on standard one, so the statement is that the standard is not met because the applicant is not unreasonably prevented from using the property for a permitted purpose, and that conformity is not unnecessarily burdensome. So if, Sarah, could we do a roll call as standard one is not met?
Jim, I would say if any of the other members want to comment on their feelings as to, or reasoning as to
Yes,
whether or
thank
not
you.
that factor is met, that'd probably be helpful to include here before a vote.
Okay, thank you.
I agree that the standard is not met, based on
Nick?
what you said.
I agree as well.
And I agree as well. Thank you, Jake.
Of course.
Okay. Sarah?
Yes. Bauk,
I agree the standard is not satisfied.
Crawford,
I agree this, or I propose that the standard is not met.
McCollum,
I agree. I believe that the first standard is not met.
Eno Barn.
I also agree that standard one does not conform and
Okay.
is not met.
Kate, would you do number two, please?
Yep. That a variance would do substantial justice to the owner as well as to other property owners in the district, or whether a lesser relaxation would give substantial relief and be more consistent with justice to others. Relaxation of the lot coverage for additional garage space would ultimately give the owner rights unavailable to owners of similar sized lots.
Okay. Rich, do you have comments on number two?
I have no comment other than I agree with that assessment.
Nick?
I also agree with that assessment.
And I do as well. Okay, so the statement is that standard two has not been satisfied. Sarah?
Yep. Oh, here. Bauk,
The standard is not satisfied.
Crawford,
Standard not satisfied.
McCollum,
I agree, standard has not been met.
and Barno.
I also agree with that.
I'll do number three, and Nick, I'll ask you to do number four, please. Number
Okay.
three, that the plight of the owner is due to unique circumstances of the property and not to general neighborhood conditions. The shape and orientation of the lot are unique, given that it is a corner lot and it is 215 square feet less than required by the district. While not the smallest lot in the area, the size falls on the smaller end of the range compared to neighboring properties. So it is a smaller lot, but it is not unique to general neighborhood conditions. It is not due to neighborhood conditions. So I don't see that the plight of the owner is due to the unique circumstances of this property. They are not so unique as to make this unnecessarily burdensome. I think this standard has not been satisfied. We'll go backwards, Nick.
Okay.
On number three.
On number three, yes. I also agree that the standard is not met.
Rich?
I believe the standard has not been met.
Okay, Kate?
I agree that the plight of the owner is not due to the circumstances of the property so much as just a desire to have a larger garage.
Okay. So the statement is that the standard has not been satisfied. Sarah?
Bob,
The standard is not satisfied.
Crawford,
Not satisfied.
McCollum,
Not met.
and Bonham.
The standard is not met.
Okay, the fourth standard, Nick.
Yeah, standard 4, that the problem is not self-created or based on personal financial circumstances. The problem regarding the expansion of the existing dwelling is not self-created, as the owner was not involved with the construction of the original dwelling. Although the owner desires an expansion to the dwelling, improving the dwelling and even expanding the footprint is not.
You're on last month.
Oh, that's, I don't have the,
This is
I'm
on the
sorry, I
floor
don't-
here.
oh gosh, I apologize for that. That the standard is not self-created or based on personal financial circumstances. Comment. One could argue that the size of the proposed principal dwelling and attached garage space has limited the ability of the owner to construct a detached garage with 676 square feet of coverage, and that the various compliance scenarios could have been presented. However, the ZBA may wish to consider the redevelopment and renovation project on a, I'm sorry, I don't have that. On a non-conforming lot which may present challenges beyond what would be created by the development of a vacant lot. Recommendation.
No.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
So in this case.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think what you're saying.
Yeah.
Is that this is not based on, it is self-created, but it's not based on personal financial circumstances. Is that a summary of,
Yes, I agree with that.
Rich?
I agree. It is created due to the fact that he would like to have a larger garage.
So, Kate?
I agree that that standard is not met.
Yeah, and I agree
Problem
the
is
standard is not met because the problem is self-created. Nick, you,
And I also have to agree with that.
okay. Sarah?
Bob,
The standard 4 is not met.
Crawford,
Standard 4 is not met. I agree.
Yep, that standard is not met.
in my opinion.
I also agree.
Okay, so we've gone through the 4 standards and found that they have not been satisfied. Do we have a motion on this request for variance?
Are you getting up, Rich? Or
I don't have it. Oh, it's, I have it here. Okay, I move to deny a variance to increase the maximum lot coverage from 30% to 34% for the construction of a 2-story detached garage with 676 square feet of ground floor space based on the following findings. And would those be the criteria then?
Yeah, that standard 1 is not met.
Yeah, that standard 1 is not met, standard 2 is not met, standard 3 is not met, and standard 4 is not met. Of course, this approval is contingent upon the construction.
This is not an
That's-
approval.
Okay, that's my motion, that's entirety with the 4
Okay, do we have a second for that motion?
Yeah, I'm wondering if that motion should refer to the previous discussion. Do we need to do that, or is that?
You could refer to the ZBA's deliberations tonight, as well as the staff report.
Okay.
If you
Can we do
wanted
that,
to,
Sarah?
yeah, articulate additional findings of fact.
Then support.
Just to be clear that
Oh, yeah.
you're fine with that friendly amendment?
Yes,
Or
that-
change to your
That-
motion?
Yes, make that change part, unless we have to vote on the amended, no. Yeah, that's fine with that
For
change.
the reasons stated in the deliberations and in the staff report.
Sarah, would you please read the amended motion?
Sure. I move to deny a variance to increase the maximum lot coverage from 30% to 34% for the construction of a two-story detached garage with 676 square feet of ground floor space based on the following findings. Standard 1 is not met, standard 2 is not met, standard 3 is not met, standard 4 is not met. And it was amended to include the reasons stated and the staff report included in the packet.
And deliberation.
Oh, and, I'm sorry.
And can we state what the deliberations part again with that you're writing down? The deliberations,
Yes, amended to include reasons stated, the deliberations in the staff report.
And the deliberations.
good, thank you.
Rich, are you satisfied with that?
Yes, very good. Mhm.
Support?
Okay, a roll call vote, please.
Bell,
Yes. A yes vote is to deny.
Crawford,
Yes.
McPullen,
Yes.
and Barn.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That closes that order of business. Agenda, we have one more item, which is the activity report, which is the last part of this package. That's these pages, which summarize what was done during the last year. Have you each reviewed those?
Yep.
And the purpose of this report is that the city charter requires the ZBA to present to the city council sometime in the month of February, a status report for the year. And Ryan has prepared this, and this is the report that would be given if we approve it tonight.
Oh.
And hopefully Bob will be back to do that. I'm not sure when he returns, but it just has to be presented sometime in February.
Okay. So we'll wait till February meeting to approve it?
No, we can approve
Oh, I
for
see.
tonight. It just doesn't get presented until February.
Gotcha.
Do we have any discussion about the report itself? I would say it's been one of our busier years.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
10. Yeah. And this doesn't.
Oh, wait.
Oh, no, there's more than that, 10.
Yeah, it's 11 total,
11.
Mr. Chair, yeah.
One in the back, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's October, and October doesn't include, then the November report is not in there either, is it? Or, oh, October is,
Yeah.
Yeah,
so-
okay.
yeah, Yep.
yeah. So we had 11.
Yeah, essentially 11 cases. Some of them involved multiple variances that you reviewed as well at a meeting. So certainly you've been hard at work. So thank you for your time and commitment as well. So.
Thank you for preparing it, Ryan.
Yes.
And I, I appreciate seeing your report in the reports to city council every morning, every month, so we can see what's going on and be thinking a little bit ahead.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any discussion on this report? Do we have a motion to approve or amend?
I move we approve the 2023 zoning board of appeals cases report as presented.
we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. The report is approved. Any other communications, Ryan?
No other communications received, Mr. Chair.
Okay, ZBA member comments? Okay, we're open for public comments again.
I have one on mine. Sorry, Trent.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, Trent's someone, but someone very important to our hearts.
No one
but,
with
uh,
comments.
okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
support.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting is closed.
Well,
For another well-run meeting.